this earlier in your presentation, that there are, how many different problems did you see with Article 26 that might be detrimental to us? Can you run through those for us, please?
Sure. Yeah, I believe I said potentially perilous areas.
Potentially perilous. Yeah. Okay.
Because obviously we do want to be very careful and thoughtful if you do ask these guidance. If you don't, we will actually be glad to provide you guidance as well. But anyways, I would say first and foremost is something that's very clear that Andrew brought up, is that the statute requires zoning for a variety of types. And he brought up a list, and that list includes multifamily, includes transitional and supportive housing. Now there's requirements around by right permanent supportive housing. It includes SROs and various other things. Regardless of the arena, if you don't have zoning for those types, we won't find you in compliance. So, you can, this is requirements that have been put in play probably around 2004. Through AB 2348, and that's kind of why eventually, you sort of steered around. But that is just something that we're not going to waver from at all. The second piece is when you get into your arena. I mentioned you have to do all these analyses around the suitability of sites and how you're going to accommodate the arena, and it's in total, and it's by income group. And so we need a proxy to take your sites and get it to those income groups, and so that's what we call zoning appropriate to accommodate lower income households. So that's where we get into that density thing that Andrew's talking about with the 30 units per acre. And so the statute kind of lays out this this approach where jurisdictions have sort of prescribed densities, urban areas 30, down to 20 for suburban, 15 for rural, and 10 for what sometimes we call the real rural. That'd be like Modoc County. So you either meet that threshold or you provide analysis, and so that's something that's an option in the statute. You could do that analysis, but I will tell you 21 units per acre isn't going to cut it. There's that, and then there's a third piece where there must be an analysis of potential governmental constraints on the development, maintenance, and improvement of housing. This includes your whole regulatory framework. Zoning, land use controls, permit procedures, fees, old billing codes, site improvements, all of it. And then there's even some more requirements just to disclose any other things you might have that impact housing. And so immediately we're going to see the measure by itself as a constraint on the supply of housing, on the cost of housing. And we would probably be looking for programs to address and remove where possible that requirement. So that's something else that's going to come into play. The next is the AB 686. That's the affirmatively furthering fair housing. Certainly is going to come into play there. I explained that. And then lastly is another one that we really need to think about a little bit. But there's recent legislation called SB 330, the Housing Crisis Act. Where there's various provisions that suspends certain actions for the next 5 years, and one is anything that results in lesser intensification of sites. There might be other things that come into play here, but to the extent that you're carrying out the measure in a way that impacts sites now or multifamily overlay sites, I don't know. But that certainly would be an area of pause.
And I wanted to ask, and maybe this was all rolled into your answers, but so what are the consequences of non-compliance if a city?
Sure. Well, we have Jerry there. He used to be in Pleasanton, I believe.
He's smiling.
I'll just say, just first off, kind of the old school.
Actually, Mr. McDougall, for those who might not know the reference to Pleasanton, give us a little.
I'll fold it in, I promise. Without
okay, great, yes.
So, first is the money. There are programs where you were not going to get access to the money or competitive points if you're out of compliance. And something that's important here is that that is not limited to housing money. You have the OBAG program, the One Bay Area grants, that is transportation related. That includes a housing element component. There's also the SB1 planning grants, transportation planning grants, that includes a housing element component. Our governor has, through his leadership, we now have a program called Pro Housing Designations, where you gain a competitive advantage in certain programs, such as infrastructure grants, and that includes a housing element component. And so, there's various other programs to think about where you no longer, have an edge on. I will say, as part of that pro housing designation, we are looking to incorporate that into not just housing programs, but transportation programs. There'll be ongoing efforts with other agencies.
Thank you.
The second piece is that you can be sued by basically anybody, per the statute. And so, what comes with that is attorney fees if someone's successful. And as well as the courts have plenty of authority to take certain actions, and one is to suspend permit authority. And in the case of Pleasanton, they actually suspended non-residential permits, which was pretty compelling. If I remember right, because they were really focused on, and particularly through the efforts of then Jerry Brown as Attorney General, on the effects of job housing rules. If I remember right. And anyway, so you have that now, and that's the way the old system, that's still there. But now what is added is just another level where things can be referred to the Attorney General. The Attorney General can go to the courts and then request penalties to the tune of $10,000 to $100,000 a month. And then, after various other processes, the courts can I believe, designate an actor to take any action whatsoever to get you into compliance. So that's something that's new, a road that we haven't been down. But nonetheless, significant additional pieces to the statute that really brings a little bit more edge to that enforcement.
Okay, thank you.